Raise the Roof Production.
Well, you'll never know the heartache of looking a grown man in the eye, and he asks, am I gonna make it? And you gotta lie. Well, they call me Doc, but I ain't got no degree. When shit hits the fan, they're calling for me. From bluegrass Kentucky, with red blood on my hands, nobody calls me hero except for my friends. Yeah, they call me Doc.
Hello, brothers and sisters and American patriots. Welcome to another outstanding episode of Sick Call with Doc. I'm your host, Rod Doc Walbeck. Always our executive producer behind the scenes, Brian Devil Dog Roof. Today's going to be a humdinger, for sure. And when I say that, I say it with all due respect. I got to give a trigger warning that there'll be some words in here that could trigger somebody, and we hope it doesn't, but know ahead of time there's going to be some strong verbiage in this episode. You know, when people would come to sick call when I was a corpsman in the Navy, they bring you all kinds of things. Sometimes they tell you their deepest secrets. And it's a privilege. And I'm finding that sick call with Doc and doing this is kind of becoming that same way. And this young lady who just made a small little comment in one of the veteran groups or something. I don't remember what it said, but I knew instantly I was drawn to her, and that I knew she had some kind of a story to tell. And so I approached her and said, to see if she'd like to talk to me about maybe coming on. And she wholeheartedly agreed to come on. I imagine there's lots of reasons why people take their life. And if I've ever seen anybody who is a miracle, they're still here with us, I wanted our fellow brothers and sisters and the rest of the world to see how dark it can get, and you can still stick around and fight for your life. So without further ado, I want to welcome Army Specialist Jacqueline Yeager.
Good morning.
Hey, lady.
Hey.
How you doing?
I'm good.
We've had some great conversations.
Yes.
And there was a divine draw, was there not?
Yes. When you asked why you were drawn to me, that's all I could tell you is you're definitely listening to your spirit.
Something just told me to hit you up.
Yeah.
And that was just a few days ago.
Yeah, it was. I had seen a few of the episodes, so, I always knew I had a story to tell. I just didn't know exactly how it was going to come out.
Well, I'm glad you chose here.
Right. Well,
Because
I'm grateful you reached out. I want other people to know that they can go through so much and still stay. There's definitely reasons to be here.
That is the message today for all of you listening.
Yes.
The message is it can get this dark. And I don't mean that to be boasting on your bad times, okay, or whatever. No. They'll all understand when we're done, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm trying to give fair warning.
Yeah.
It's a hell of a story, and it ends well.
Yes, it does. It does.
You know what I mean? All right, so today's your day. You get to tell your brothers and sisters, humanity, what you want to tell them today, to inspire them to stick around and find their passion.
Yes. This one, it's definitely a heavy story. So like you said, if you've got little ones in the room, or if you've got triggers, this may hit some of those. So that's not my intention, but I have to tell my story. Some of you are going to hear this and y'all are going to believe that I'm mentally ill. And honestly, I'm okay with that. Um, to be able to believe the things that I believe, there's some people just think it's absolutely crazy, and that's okay. It's still my story, so I still have to tell it anyway. Um, I was born in 1981 in Fulton, Kentucky. My mom already had sons who were almost 10 and 12 years older than I was. My father was 4 years younger than her. He wanted a child really bad. So she consented. But by the time I was a year old, they had already split up and went their own ways. They were both dealing with drugs and alcohol. um, there's more that went into that story. I'm going to try and tell you
Hey,
this, but not
it's just
so
me.
much detail that you miss the main points.
Right.
Um,
It's just me and you talking.
yeah. When I was 2 years old, I was raped for the first time. My mom came in the room. We shared a room together. I slept in her bed. And when she came in, I was screaming, "Get him off me, get him off me." Um, they took me to the hospital and sewed me back together, basically. And they told her I would never have children. There was just too much damage. Uh, when I was 3, though, my mom went into Grace House in a rehab. She actually stayed there for a couple years. My oldest brother was 12. He went to rehab and didn't stay long. After that, both of my brothers went to live with their dad. So while my mom was in rehab, my grandmother had me a lot of the time. My nanny was my saving grace through everything. Um, she's the one person who's always been there. She didn't understand, when I was younger, I was literally just crying all the time. And she had no idea why, but she loved me through that. She didn't judge me for it, didn't try to make me feel bad. Um, so I owe so much to her. It was her prayers, a lot of it, that kept me going through. Um, After my mom went to rehab, I actually was kind of living with my aunt, but my father got married again. So I think she thought that was safe to let me go with him. We moved from Tennessee to Richmond, and things got really, really bad quickly. I had a
How old were you
stepbrother.
at this point?
How old
Three,
was I?
4? Yeah. How old
4.
were you at this?
Yeah, I was 4.
Okay.
Um, my stepbrother would have been like 12, and I was 4. My father and his mom were abusive. So I felt like basically he was hitting us and beating us up because that's what they were doing to him. Um, we played a game, and I don't know another way to say this. I called it fight me or fuck me. At 4 years old, there were days when I won and I didn't get raped. So there was a lot of fight in me. The problem was not just that it was him. There came a point where it was him and his best friend named JP and JP's little brother. They were all raping me in the bathroom floor and told me if I ever told my dad that they would kill me. So I held that in. I never said a
At
word.
4.
Yeah, at 4. Um, we were actually only there until I was about 7, or no, 6 really. So 4 to 6, it was only 2 years. Um, in that time though, so much had went on. There came a point where I ran away from home. We lived in apartments, so it's not like I went far, but there was a girl who lived across from us, a teenage girl, and she knew something was going on. She just didn't know what. My stepbrother came to the door, and they were literally pulling on me back and forth like I was a rope in the tug of war. My stepbrother did get me, so I had to go back. Um, Something happened in school though. I'm trying to not go so far in depth to drown everything out
Where
here.
was it? Was there anybody there at
No,
all?
no.
Where were?
My father, when he was there, was just gone. Like I said, he was messed up on coke and alcohol really bad. So was his wife. So it was more like everything, they say shit rolls downhill. That's true in life too, just as it is in the military. Um, there came a point though when I was in school, I had a pair of pants or shorts and I couldn't button them. So the teachers called my stepbrother to come in and try and button my pants. When he got in there, I mean, literally, I was screaming and crying. Just they knew something was wrong. So there was a saving grace in that. I don't know who these people actually were to me, Their names were Cindy and Danny. I called them Aunt Cindy and Uncle Danny. They had a daughter. She was right around my age. They were great to me. That was where I stayed until we moved to Tennessee. They never did anything bad to me. There was some grace in that, but I had no idea how to handle somebody being good to me because that was completely unfamiliar to me. So I didn't know how to process that.
But there was good moments that you can reflect on now.
Yes, there were. I remember Cindy, putting me in dresses and curling my hair. I never had someone pay attention to me like that. So it was a beautiful thing, but I didn't know how to accept that given everything I had already experienced.
So you're
Um,
talking about your dad's new wife's son
yeah, yes.
and a buddy of his.
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah.
his little brother, the thing was, his little brother didn't actually want to take part. He was like maybe 8, and they were forcing him to do it. I don't know if they just wanted somebody else to take part so they could take the guilt from themselves or whatever it
It's such
was.
sexual,
Yeah. And
uh,
this wasn't just a one-time thing. This was repetitive.
and you knew it was coming when it was coming.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I called the game fight me or fuck me, but there were days where I actually put up enough fight that I didn't get raped. So, um,
Okay.
after Richmond, we moved to Tennessee. My aunt, my grandfather was a preacher, so God was something that was thrown around really heavy, but you can't tell me all these things about God and then I'm watching my dad get drunk and just blown off of cocaine. So some of that they were telling me something, but the hypocrisy just didn't make sense to me. My aunt was great to me. My aunt was actually my mom's best friend. She was the reason my mom and dad got together in the first place. So, but she was she had her own 2 children. She had 2 sons. Um, so she was trying to show me all this grace, and I did really good with that. But again, it was almost confusing to me. I guess I was just waiting on something worse to happen. Um, in this time, my grandmother had gotten married. So from the time I was 2, actually until the time I was 9 years old, there was some kind of sexual abuse going on. Um, my grandmother's husband didn't actually rape me. He molested me. Um, this may sound crazy, but I promise I think it's worse to be molested. You feel like you got tricked into something. At least when someone's raping you, you have an opportunity to fight. I didn't tell my grandmother, and I think I could have, like, that I had the words, but I was afraid that either she wouldn't believe me or she would believe me and she'd kill him. So I held on to that. I never told her, even though, like I said, I feel like I could have. I didn't know her reaction. It would be one of those 2 things. I didn't tell her anything until I was in the military and came home on leave for the first time. Um, she was talking that day and she kept saying when she gets to heaven and sees Alvin. And I almost flipped the dinner table over. And I told her, when you get to heaven, you won't see him. He's burning in hell for what he did to me. So she didn't know until then what had happened. She carried a lot of guilt though. She told me then that she suspected something was going on, but she didn't know what. There was so
Well, the
much
thing is,
behavior
the
from
thing
the
is
enemy.
about
She
sexual
couldn't have
deviance
guessed,
is
there was
I'm so sorry.
you're fine. There was just so much going on with me. She wouldn't have even been able to pick out because there had been so much abuse. So she wouldn't have been able to locate a source, even if she would have asked me. Um, but but again, like I said, even through all those years that I was going to her house, she had no idea why I was just crying all the time.
You
And
never told anybody.
kids, trauma comes out in ways that you can't explain. And even as a child, I didn't have words to explain what was going on, but she loved me through that. But my grandmother was different. My grandmother didn't tell me God. She showed me God in the way that she loved me, the way that she loved other people. So, um, there was something she had in her house, and it was the footprints in the sand. Basically, this person's walking and they look down and realize there's only 2 sets of footprints, and they're like, wait a minute, I thought you told me, Jesus, you'd never leave me. And this thing says, it wasn't that I left you in those times where you only see one set of footprints. That's where I was carrying you.
Right.
That rang true to me. I had already had dreams where I had seen what we would call past lives, but I had seen Jesus's face. I had looked directly into his eyes. So I knew long before I ever stepped in a church, I knew who Jesus was and that he was what was carrying me. So that stuck with me. When things got really, really hard, I thought back to that. And that kept me, Jesus is what kept me through all of this. It was not my own strength. There's no way I could have went through what I went through even by then and been okay. It wasn't my own strength. It was Jesus. Um, I have to look at this.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
And it's just dying on me. When you were 6, 7, 8, 9, you were able to vocalize what was happening to you. Did you never spoke out and told anyone?
No, no. My mother knew what had happened when I was really young, but she was so messed up. I don't know that it really registered to her until she saw me again at 6.
You remember these things from 2?
Yes, yes, but it's not just my memories that I have. I was able to talk to my brothers who were so much older than I was, and I knew what had happened, and they were like, "You can't remember." So I told them exactly the layout of our trailer. And they were like, "Wow, she's right. I remember watching Prince Purple Rain, and that was the same time all this was going on." Psychology says you can't remember before you were 5. That's not true. I have the memories, and I was able to discuss and confirm with my brothers what had happened, that it wasn't just something I thought. Um, I had a picture album that my grandmother had put together for me, and I went to my brother Larry. "Who is this right here? This is the guy that raped me. What's his name?" "Oh, his name's Kenny." "Yes, he is the one that raped you." Um, there was a man that my brother or my mother was friends with. His name was Steve. I don't know what actually happened to Kenny, just that he went away. I don't know all the details of that. I don't know, but he wasn't around anymore. That was the way they took care of it. But like I said, my mom was really messed up too. She went into rehab, and she stayed in rehab for a couple of years. My brother went, but it wasn't long term like that. As far as I know, he was only smoking weed, but still at 12 years old, that's quite a thing.
I think there's a bunch of
So,
people need to be in a prison cell to figure out their sins.
well,
You know,
I think life brought enough of that all on its own. I consider everything that happened, and I think karma has a way of showing people without someone else having to do anything. I don't blame my
you would
mother for what
hope.
happened, though. I don't, or my brother for that matter. When my mom was 15, her dad tried to rape her, and that kicked off a whole series of things for her that led to some of the things that she was
Well,
doing.
it's
So
definitely
she had her own issues
generational,
she was trying to deal with.
the
Yeah,
dysfunction is definitely generational.
yeah, yeah, definitely.
I mean,
So
absolutely.
when we
Wow.
moved to Tennessee, like I said, we were living with my aunt. My father was still doing cocaine. He was really messed up. But it was more like my aunt was my caretaker. And she was great to me, but we went to church anytime the church doors were open. So it kind of gave me a different feel. Like I said, they told me God, but it didn't feel like they showed me that. It was kind of confusing. Um, I didn't quite know how to process some of those things. You're telling me how to act a certain way, but then I know my father's on cocaine and alcohol. Like it was hard. Um,
He was on that for a long time,
yeah,
huh? A lot of your
my
life.
father didn't stop drinking until I went to basic training. I carried guilt over that. To me, it felt like I think for the longest time I thought my father hated me, and it wasn't that. I feel like when I got older, I realized it was more that when he looked at me, he saw his own mistakes and he couldn't handle that. I think that's why he drank. Um, so, uh,
Yeah.
but there came a gap. The last summer I was with my grandma was 91. My mom died later that year, but that summer, my grandma was taking me home, and Guns N' Roses had just come out with that song "Knocking on Heaven's Door," and my grandmother was
Great tune.
crying. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. My grandmother was just bawling her eyes out, and she's driving me from West Virginia to Tennessee. And I'm like, Grandma, what is going on with you? What's wrong? And all she would mumble was something about my brother. So I was pissed at my brother, like, you made Nanny cry, and I don't know why. My mom died in 91. It would have been the year of 90. I'm sorry. It would have been 90 when my grandmother was bringing me back, because it was 91 when my mother died. That was January 16th. So we're still within that year time frame. After my mom died, I told my
How old
grandmother,
were you
I'm not
then?
coming back to your house.
How old were
She
you?
didn't know why, but I was furious because I felt like I always knew. And by that time I had the words, I knew that I could tell my mom what was going on with me and she would stop it. So, but the night that my mother died, I've already told y'all some of my dreams where I'd seen things that, most people say, oh, you can't believe your dreams. But that night I had a dream that my mom died. I was in her room looking at her waterbed and I was calling for her and she wouldn't wake. I was really used to having nightmares, so it wasn't something unusual for me. My solace was the living room. There was more light shining through the windows there. That night I went and slept on the couch. An ambulance came by though, and the weirdest thought entered my mind, and I thought, that's my mom. Now, physically, that made no sense. My mom lived 45 minutes away from me. I don't think it was that it was her. I think it was spirit cluing me into what was going on.
How
Um,
old were you at this time?
I would have just turned 9 in September.
Okay.
No, I would have turned 10 in
Okay.
September. I keep saying 9. I think I kind of skipped my birthday that year because of the trauma that came after. Like I don't think I even registered all of
I
that.
can understand that. Yeah.
That morning I had woke up though, and my father was on the phone. I didn't hear everything he said, but he said he had the easy part telling me. How do I tell her? And I said, Daddy, tell me what? He said, nothing. You go back to sleep. I did what I was told, but when I woke up, I looked over and my brother was there. And I said to him, I said, Mom is dead, isn't she? Yeah. And I just fell into his arms crying. Um, I'll never forget how that was. And he didn't ask me, how do you know? So I don't know if he just understood. Something happened though in 93. My great grandmother shifted. My uncle came in to tell us what had happened. And I said, Mama died. He said, how do you know? And I said, she told me. And it wasn't something traumatic. Again, it was what I was calling dreams, I guess were technically visions. She came to me and told me she was going home. There was no pain or anything like that, though. So to me, these dreams weren't weird. It was just part of what was normal for me. But I remember my uncle, he was like, how do you know? And I said, she told me. It wasn't a big deal to me. It was just, I always just took that as part of, and I don't guess I knew that other people didn't have those experiences. To me, it was just normal. It wasn't something strange. Um, excuse me. So
How you holding up? You okay?
yeah, I had to write some of these things down. Now I feel like I'm looking to remember where I'm even
Well,
at.
let's talk about we got to 9, 10 years old. Mom passed away. Then you get into high school,
Yeah.
and
Get
how
getting
was
into
that
high
for you?
school, when I came home that year from my grandmother's, my father was living with my stepmother in a different house than when I left. So that year of 90 and 91, there was so much change. Um, when my mom died, there came a thing though, because my dad was telling me, you're going to call Tammy mom. My mom had died. I wasn't calling anybody mom. So there was already a lot of issues stacking up between the two of us that didn't jive well. She had 2 children. I was definitely like the redheaded stepchild. I could not do anything right no matter what I did. When my mom died, though, my stepmother wanted to give me some kind of comfort. And I remember her having her mom talk to me. And she told me, your mom is a flower and God needed to put her in his garden. And that I accepted that, but I was so pissed off at God. I could not understand
So even though your
why in
mom didn't know
God's
what was
green
going
earth he
on, you
would
still
take the
had such
one
love for her.
person that would have helped me. I mean, I was furious. Um, Going into high school became a little bit different. I do have to tell y'all this one thing. When my mom died, I was in 4th grade, and they had notified the school my dad had, this is what happened. So they told my classmates what happened just to be aware of when I came back. Um, the day that I came back, there was a girl who lived right behind me, Amanda Lawrence, and her dad had passed. So she was kind of, comforting me, let me know I'm here. And there was a girl in school, Dee Dee, and this was the time when yo mama jokes were the thing. Um, she went to make one yo mama joke, and I told her, stop. She did it twice, and I said, stop. The third time she said, yo mama, I took my backpack, dropped it on the ground, and jumped on this girl and was just wailing, bam, bam, bam. The teachers opened up the doors and literally had to pull me off of her. I didn't get suspended or anything like that. It was more like they
Well,
took
she
me
was
and
being
picked me up
awful,
and
she was
basically
being
told her, you
inconsiderate.
shouldn't have done this. Yeah, I wasn't a mean kid. Like I didn't want to hurt anyone because I had been hurt. I knew how that felt. But when she hit that third one, it was like, okay, I wasn't thinking anymore. So that was definitely different. I didn't get in trouble or anything like that. Um, I don't think I don't remember, anything except for the incident going back to class and the teachers were like, "Are you okay?" Like, yeah, I'm okay now, but I couldn't like I got so upset that it surprised me what I had done, if that makes any sense. Um,
Didn't know you had it in you.
well, here's the thing though. I knew I did, but I didn't want to hurt someone because I had been hurt. Something changed when I was about 11 or 12 years old. I had a neighbor who lived across the street. His name was Luke. Luke hit me, and I told my dad what happened. And he said, well, hit him back. And I took that with me, and I thought, okay, it's a boy. I'm a girl. If he hits me, I don't have a problem doing that. It wasn't but a few weeks later, my dad looked outside, and I was whooping Luke too because he had hit me, and I had enough. That was the first time I had ever decided it's okay for me to do this. With Dee Dee, it was more of a reaction. When my dad told me hit him back, it was like that struck me. And
Hey,
I
girl,
did.
my girlfriend, my dad did that to
Yeah,
me. I was
yeah,
always in trouble kind of kid, right? Always in trouble. And I was trying to be good. So, like,
yeah,
if I could be good for a month, I got to go to like the museum or some, whatever it was. And this kid kept bullying me. And I came up from the lake, and my dad's like, what? I was crying. He's like, I was like 10 or 12. What's wrong with you? I said, so and so keeps punching me and bullying me and this and that. I want to beat his ass.
yeah.
He says, well, go do it. And that kid been doing it for weeks, man. I was trying to be a good kid, not
Hmm.
fight, you know.
Hmm.
And I went down there and pulverized him. Parents had to drag me out because I was drowning him in a lake.
Well,
Anyway,
I
so I
think
get,
this whole
I
thing with
totally
Luke,
understand.
it kicked something off for me because I had a rage inside me, but I never wanted to hurt somebody else because I knew what it felt like to be hurt. But that changed for me because it felt like, for me, it was justification. If you've already hit me, then you started it. And that stuck with me. Um, Going into high school, that really became a thing. My stepbrother was gay. So and it was always guys. It wasn't girls. It was always guys just being hateful to him. So I ended up kind of being the bully buster in school. I felt like if you're going to pick on him and he wasn't doing anything, then you had to deal with me. But I never got in trouble at school. I always fought outside of school. Um, I remember my son had asked me, did you ever get in trouble? No, baby. No boy wants to call the cops and say, hey, this little 100-pound girl just beat the shit out of me. So that
Yeah,
wasn't
or
that
the
wasn't a
principal or the
concern
school,
for me. Uh, there was a
right?
lot though. My stepmother, like I said, for me, it was more like being the redheaded stepchild. She had no idea what to do with me, and I had been through so much. It's not like I was willing to accept. So there was always a lot of tension and issues with us. At the time, I don't know if I knew that it was abuse. I just thought she couldn't stand me. Um, when high school came around, though, there was something different because even though she couldn't stand me, it was her son that I was protecting. So there became kind of a grace that way. I remember being grounded. I mean, and I couldn't even tell you what for. It was like, oh, you're grounded. But she never gave me a reason. She would do things like take away my CDs or my tapes, the things that actually helped me keep myself sane. Um, Also, at the age of 15, I smoked weed for the first time. Everybody else seemed to get really goofy and slow. It didn't do that for me. It just made my brain not run 9 million miles an hour.
Slow
So for
things
me,
down
there
for
was
you.
a saving grace in it.
Yeah.
Um, I didn't have any desire to drink though, not because alcohol couldn't be some way to cope, but my father was an alcoholic, so I never wanted that. I never wanted something to have that kind of control over me. I remember being young and pouring his beer out, and he got so mad. And I'm like, look, you have
What,
to buy food. You can't keep doing this.
yeah. Was he a
So
mean?
for
Was he a
that, it was
mean
more
drug?
like I was his parent. And that caused issues too when my stepmom came along, because I thought I've been taking care of him all this time. Now you want to come in and tell me what to do? Nah, that's not going to work. Um, I skipped over something and I didn't mean to. In 93, while my brother was in prison all this time, we were writing letters back and forth. But my stepmother would take my letters and read them before I ever got them. Sometimes she would take a page out. I don't know, what those things said. It may have said something that I had said about her. I don't know. But she was, I mean, truly, I remember I think there was a point where I almost wanted to call her a demon, but all I knew how to reference her was just evil. She was cruel for the sake of being cruel. She enjoyed that. Um, it was in 93, though, my brother got out of jail. My oldest brother did. And the first thing I did was jump on him. Why did you make Nanny cry? I'm pissed. So he's like, what do you mean? And I'm telling him, she was bringing me home and this song came on the radio and she's crying. And so he had to tell me, look, I have AIDS. Um, that that blew my mind.
How old were you? How old were you?
Oh God, in 93, I would have been like 12.
Okay.
Uh, but I remember Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson had money and he had AIDS, and somehow that kept him okay. I remember being really pissed off
Well, he
because I
had
thought, well, what
money.
about these people who don't have money? You know, um, they actually at some point, my brother had been in prison so long, he would get out and go back in for doing something else stupid. Um, but once he got so sick, they literally kicked him out because he was costing the state so much money. So they sent him home just so they didn't have to deal with him, basically. Um,
Wow.
I enlisted in the military at 17. I had to have my parents sign off. Um, but I had wanted to go in the military since I was young. Both of my uncles went in. Um, my father didn't go because he was allergic to bees. I always felt like that was like a cop out. I didn't quite understand. And then when I enlisted and found out they could have just given him an EpiPen, I feel like he was afraid. And to me, that just kind of added on to the way that I looked at him already. I wanted to go. I remember playing with my uncle's dog tags. I've always had a desire to serve, to be of service of some kind to the world, whether it was, other people came up to me, even in school, and it was like, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but my dad raped me. And I would tell them, you're telling me because you see in other people what you see in yourself. I understand. So even when I was so angry, because after my mom died, I mean, I was pissed at God. I was cussing at him, fussing at him. I just had no use. But you've got to understand, I had already had dreams where I had seen Jesus. I know what the Trinity says, that there's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and they're three in one. I understand we all come from source and we'll all go back to source. But I didn't look at Jesus the same way I did God. So even while I was pissed at God, I was still praying to Jesus and talking to him. That's what kept me. I carried that, the footprints in the sand, that poem with me. I carried that with me and kept it close to my heart. Like I said, I knew the things that I had been through. It wasn't my own self that was keeping me. It was Jesus. It wasn't me. Um, so there was that grace for me. Some
Yeah.
people think that's weird how you can separate them. I think I understood. Well, I don't mean to skip ahead, but once my brother died, that changed for me. The way I felt for God had changed for me.
Well, Jacqueline, let's do this. Let's get into the 17 military time that includes your brother happened during then, right? And other things. So let's recap. We, for our listeners, we are just skimming
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I couldn't give, even just to do this, I had to edit so small. And even though you guys, I'm telling you these things, there's so much that, I mean, we could stay here for years and I could keep going. I had to condense this so that way I could get it across, but not drown y'all in all the details.
I think they're getting the point when we start out the story with 2-year-old rape,
Right.
stitches and medical care.
Right.
That put it right where it starts. And it shows how with dysfunction around you with adults, kids are just so innocent and they're stuck in that nonsense of adults can't handle their lives. And
Well, that was the thing, when you're raped at 2 years old, you're not a child anymore. That didn't, I think, again, and for me, not because it was okay, but I just accepted what had happened and went forward. I have a letter that my mother wrote my grandmother, and I was 6. It was in 87 when she wrote this letter. And it was the first time I had seen her since she came back from rehab. And she tells my grandma that I had grown up too fast for her to know what to do with. And she put that I was a person in my own right. If you don't know what that means, like, literally go to Google, look that up, type, what does it mean to be a person in your own right? So at 6 years old, I wasn't asking, hey, can you make me something for dinner? Or I didn't go to my parent for things. I was doing things like an adult would. So I grew up so fast that kind of messed me up in a way too, though, because when I was 17, you couldn't tell me I wasn't grown. I was grown from the time I was 2, but that also made me delay learning some things about how to love myself until later.
Of course. So I'll tell you what, let's let everybody take a break and take a breather. And Brian, let's help out some other veterans. And we'll just take a time out and we'll get back to it with your service time and some other things.
Okay.
Awesome.
Are you ready to be inspired by incredible stories of veterans, active duty military members, and first responders? Join Marine veteran Brian Roof on Every Days of Saturday USMC Veteran as he dives deep into the lives of those who continue to make a difference. Hear firsthand experiences from front lines to civilian life. Discover the strength, resilience, and triumphs of our heroes. Gain valuable insights and practical advice for navigating life's transitions. With every episode, you'll be uplifted by stories of courage, determination, and hope. This is more than just a podcast. It's a community where every day feels like a Saturday. Subscribe now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows. Don't miss out on these powerful conversations that will leave you inspired and motivate us. Let's go.
Hey y'all, Hot Rod Wally here. Finally, a revolutionary nutrient line that puts the needs of you and your plants first. Easy to use, forgiving, tweakable, versatile, and clean. Utopic Essential Nutrients blends only the most refined raw materials, the perfect blend of plant hormones derived from kelp, along with silica and humates, makes Utopic a powerhouse plant food. From commercial industrial growers down to our beloved hobbyists. Come discover our truth at www.utopicessentialnutrients.com. Come get them. And we're back with Jacqueline Yeager.
Do what?
I said, how you doing?
I'm all right.
Yeah?
Sorry, I had to move around a little bit, y'all.
No worries. Shake it off.
Not that. Not that.
It was only that simple, right?
Yeah, something.
Well, I want our listeners to know something. there is beauty at the end of this story.
Yes, there is.
Okay,
Yes, there
hang
is.
on, and you're gonna
Yes.
hear some
Uh,
really kick-ass stuff. So
Before we get to my military service, there was something I forgot, and it was pretty important. When I was 15, I had consensual sex for the first time. My stepbrother got mad at me for something, so he told my stepmom. My father was a welder. He was on a trip in Michigan. She took my clothes off of me and beat me with a braided belt. And when I went to the bathroom, I looked in the mirror and there was just whelps all over me from the buckle and everything. I had the
your
worst panic
stepmother,
attack. Yeah,
stepmother,
the same woman. My father was married 3 times. He finally stayed married to this last one, but that was neither here nor there. Um, I had the worst panic attack I've ever had in my life. It took my father 15 hours to get from Michigan to Tennessee. That whole time I stayed in my closet, just rocking back and forth. I was traumatized enough by what had happened. I let my dad pick me up with no clothes on, and all I could tell him was through my stutters, "You tell that bitch if she ever hits me again, I'm hitting her back." So that was a switch point for me, because I meant what I said. I decided if she ever tried to touch me again, I was fighting back. Um, so, but then you get into the military service. I think even had I known that I was going to mess my back and my neck up, I wanted to go so bad I might have done it anyway. So, I went to basic training in AIT at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri. I graduated from basic, literally crossed the street right at AIT. Um,
so literally though,
uh,
you didn't join. You didn't join to get away from everything. You
no,
you
no, I wanted to
you had
go in from the time I
a
was 5.
fondness for
I
that.
wanted
Yes.
to be of service. Yeah, I
Right
wanted to
on.
serve my country. To me,
Gotcha.
there was something inside me, I guess, because all the things that I had been through, I had this desire to protect other people who couldn't protect themselves. And that was what fueled me. That kept me going. You know,
That comes
even
from
with
your
all
trauma.
I had been through, I never thought of taking myself out, because I'd be damned if the world hadn't killed me. I sure wasn't going to do them the favor and do it for them. I just wouldn't. But I also knew that there was a reason. There was a reason for all of this. Not that it was good things, but that I could take all this shit I had been through and use it to fuel me. I think everybody gets that option. You can't control what happens, but you can control how you do when something happens.
Right. You could be the victim and get into drugs and alcohol and abuse your child and all that.
No.
You
See,
know,
but that's the thing. You have a choice. You can either choose, and if you don't acknowledge what happens, you're going to keep making the cycle. I think I understood so young that even though I had been through hell, I wasn't going to be like that because it had happened to me. So people make a
right.
choice whether they realize it consciously or not. I refused to do that because I had been through those things. I never wanted someone else to hurt like that.
Sometimes parents teach you how to live, and
Yeah, and well, see,
sometimes they
that was
teach
my
you how not
father.
to live.
There
How
were
not
so
to
many
live.
good things, and even though I didn't get to spend, basically it was only like 6 years of my life I got to spend with my mom. The love that she showed me was so profound and had such a profound effect on me. I always looked at my father more like I didn't want to do what he did. I and I don't mean it negative. My father had some good traits. He worked hard, things like that. But I always looked at my father as what I didn't want to be. I looked at my mother as who I did want to be. Even though she had made her mistakes, she got herself right. She was doing better. Um, when I okay, so when I graduated from AIT and I came home to do hometown recruiting. While I was gone to basic, my stepbrother told me literally when I got home for hometown recruiting, and you're there for like 30 days, whatever,
Right.
he literally told me that he had sucked my fiance's dick while I went to basic training. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. He and I got into it on the front porch and I pushed him off in the rose bushes. Uh, that broke my heart. Dallas was my first love. And I know, you call it puppy love. He and I ended up getting together later on in life, and I found out that my stepbrother had actually put like a roofie in his drink. What happened with them really messed his
Man,
head up. He didn't
is
know how
this
to,
man?
yeah,
I
he
want to
didn't know
meet
how
this
to process
stepbrother.
what was going on.
I need to meet him.
But it always felt like so Jerry Springerish to me, though. It was like, and when I was young, that was something that was on the TV. And I always thought, dude, I could have been on there. It's actually really crazy. And it's so weird because my stepbrother was the person who I was defending for people being mean to him. Of course, he would be the one who broke my heart like that. It was just absolutely crazy looking back at it.
So did you like your time in?
Yes and no. Yes.
Did you
and
like your
no.
job? You were a truck driver,
I
right?
did. My recruiters thought I was crazy. I had made like a 97 on my ASVAB. So they were like, you get to pick, all these things. And I picked truck driving. They were like, no, you don't want to do that. I'm like, yeah, I do. They tried to talk me into doing all kinds of different stuff. And I wanted to drive because that's something I loved when I was younger. I got to my permanent duty station and we drove hets. I thought that was just awesome. You're driving this gigantic truck and loading tanks. A het, a heavy equipment transporter.
All right.
So we would load, M1s, M2s, 88s on the back of our trucks and haul them around. To me, that was great. One of the very first things that happened when I got to my permanent duty station, though, is we were having a POV inspection to go home for Thanksgiving. My assistant squad leader was the one who was doing my inspection. And I had a picture of, at the time would have been my fiance up there. And he was like, who's that? And I told him, and he was like, oh, I can do whatever he does to you. And y'all, I'm blown away. I'm an 18-year-old kid. And this is my assistant squad leader who's telling me this. And I thought, oh God. So I did the right thing, went through the whole actual formal process of having him charged. They moved him to the other platoon until he went to Korea. That was it. There was nothing else I ever heard about it. Yeah. I wouldn't go for mental health before. That was what got me to actually start going to behavioral health once I got in the military. They diagnosed me with PTSD off the top, which, I didn't quite understand then. I studied psychology in high school, but not in depth. But again, anybody who had been through what I'd been through, of course, they're going to say you have PTSD. So I actually served out my full first enlistment and I had re-enlisted. My brother was getting really, really sick at this point. He had actually, I guess it was like 91, 92 when he actually contracted HIV. By the time I was in, he had come to see me and he really wanted me to be able to be with him and take care of him. When I was actually, it was after hometown recruiting, I had actually tested positive for marijuana on a urinalysis. Not a big deal. Took my rank. Okay, here you do some extra duty. Not a big deal. I was like, fine, that's cool. So when my brother came to visit me, I went and talked to my chaplain and my sergeant major, and I told him, look, he's actually to the point he's ready to die now. I want to be with my brother. So they were like, hey, you've already came up hot on a urinalysis once before. If you do it again, we can just send you home. Now, I didn't care that they were going to take my rank. I didn't care anything about what happened as long as I got to be there with Michael. So, and the crazy thing was my unit was about to be deployed. 233rd is the only unit on Fort Knox, Kentucky outside of EOD that was deployable. So my unit went deployed 5 days before I came home.
I can see where they would suggest that.
March 5th of 2003. And I did go take care of my brother. I knew it had gotten really bad though. There came a point where I couldn't even get him to smoke weed anymore. And I knew when it got to that point because they had him on medication, cannabinol, things like that to try and give him an appetite to help him. But when he got thrush, his gums literally opened up and bled just black from this disease, from where it was tearing him up. When I couldn't get him to smoke weed anymore, I couldn't get him to eat. I watched him go from this vibrant, strong young man to this man whose hair was falling out. And it was, summertime, it's 100 degrees outside and he's freezing. He couldn't get warm. So, me and my brother Larry took him to his dad. He was only with his dad for like 2 days before they had to put him in the hospital. His brains had actually boiled at 107 degrees. When we were in the room, my grandmother was up by his head, stroking his hair. We're talking to him, singing. But there came a point where he was literally looking up at something that we couldn't see, and he was crying. I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry. And Sarah McLachlan, In the Arms of an Angel, came on the radio. I'll never forget how that all laid out. That, like I said, his brains had already boiled at 107 degrees. He shouldn't have even been able to talk. My grandmother and I knew, we knew whether he was looking at angels or Jesus, we knew. And y'all, I didn't believe in a deathbed confession. Before that, I had heard of a deathbed confession. I always thought it was people saying like, oh, just in case you're real, I'm sorry. No, this was something different. When I watched him go through this, when my grandmother and I left that evening, we got the call that night that he had died. But watching him go through that, it unhardened my heart. It made, and it really took me losing him to understand that God didn't take my mom to punish me. It was actually a grace for her to go home. She had pneumonia before, and I thought, I remember her telling me I'm sick, and I was like, no, you're better. And she kind of looked at me like she knew something I didn't know. So watching my brother die that way, it unhardened my heart. It made me understand that God was the one who was supposed to save me, not my mom. But it took me going through that to really grasp that, to unharden my heart. But that also made me realize, though, because, I had actually gotten baptized when I was 6 years old. My aunt was like, you don't understand what you're doing. So she made me talk to the pastor. And he was like, no, she knows she's accepting Jesus as her Lord and Savior. You need to let her do this. I didn't tell them that I had already known Jesus because I had seen him in my dreams. Jesus was very real to me. So from the time I was 9 until I was 21, I was cussing at God, fuck you. I was mad, just furious.
Hey guys,
I
hate
think
to
also the
interrupt, Jacqueline.
religiosity that I was brought up in, what they were saying didn't make sense to me. I understood without somebody telling me that God understands a broken mind. The way religiosity is taught that it's not that. I because of my own understandings, it conflicted with what the church was saying. So I just didn't share those things out loud with most people. I just kept that inside and kept going. My brothers, though, the last conversation we all had before Michael got put in the hospital was we were all sitting on Larry's front porch, and they were saying that they believe when you die, someone is there to cross you over to carry you home. So that gave me a peace about my mom, because I knew right then, they were telling me it's going to be mom when I go. So that was what really brought me that peace was, mom. And I wrote a poem about it. I called it Fade Away. And the last line was like, I hope when you were there to cross over, mama was there to take you home, a place where even you won't fade away. So that gave me a peace to know that he was with her, that all was well. I remember telling my grandmother, though, when I was young, I couldn't have been but maybe 19 or so. And I remember telling her, God is great, but religion sucks. And she thought I had just blasphemed. And we had a conversation about it. And I told her, I said, Nanny, if I could see myself through God's eyes, I would love me more. That was one of her prayers, was, God, let me see myself through your eyes so I'll know what to fix. And I told her, I said, no, for me, it's the other way. If I saw myself through God's eyes, I wouldn't hate me so much.
I'll tell you what, Jacqueline.
Much that I was carrying so much on myself too. I went through all those things, what happened really quick. But when a person is abused, people don't just jump in and rape you. They tell you things to break you down. You're fat, you're ugly. So I had heard so much that I believed that. I didn't know another way to look at me. It actually took my brother dying, though, for me to realize, because he was 12 years older than I was. I didn't know until he was gone that I really looked at him a lot more like my father than I did my own dad. He took care of me. He was the one who made sure, I was reading My Little Pony books. He was brushing my hair, making sure I had a bath.
Hey, Jacqueline, let's hold up for 1 second for me, please. Hey,
Yeah.
Brian, let's take one more break because we got another 20 minutes or so. I didn't mean to cut you off, Jacqueline.
Sorry, y'all.
It's okay. Your story is important, and you need to get out there what you need to get out there because it relates, and veterans are going to get this. They're going to understand. And I just let's go ahead and take another quick break if we could, Brian, and because all the good stuff's coming.
Division doesn't happen by accident. It's engineered, layered into our systems, etched into our history, and sold to us as truth. Divisive Measures is the podcast that pulls back the curtain. Host Brian takes you down the rabbit hole, into the policies, the propaganda, the pain, to ask one question: who profits from keeping us apart? From PTSD to systemic oppression, from inherited trauma to digital echo chambers. This show doesn't flinch. It listens. It questions. It connects. Divisive Measures, premiering July 1st on Spotify, because the only way out of the divide is through it.
American made, better known, we are Doc Goodbeard. It's more than just looking good. When it comes to your beard, we believe you can have it all. Thoughtfully designed, unique fragrances, and affordable prices. We strive to provide a line of uniquely scented balms and oils that you won't find in other products. Come on, rock with Doc, and remember, it's all about the beard, man. So what do you say? Let's take that average beard and make it badass. Go to docbeard.com.
And we're back. A lot to take in, wouldn't you say? I think so.
Yeah.
But things have changed.
Yes. Very much.
You're at home with your boy?
Yes. Yes. My son is 13. His name's Felix. That's a Latin word for lucky. I do have a daughter. She's a whole nother story. I don't want to just jump into that. I want to go into her birth first. So after my brother died, I had met a guy, a civilian, and we instantly clicked. It was actually right after my brother's funeral. I had my dad drop me off at his house. And he was like, "Do you know whose house this is?" It's like, "Yeah, it's Richie's." And he was like, "No, the house that he lived in was my grandmother and grandfather's house." So it was
Wow.
pretty wild. My dad was like, "Those pictures you have of me and your mom when we got married, that was on her front porch." So it's, how synchronicity, I don't call it coincidence. I don't believe in coincidence. So how awesome or terrifying, whichever way you want to look at it, that the house that I was walking into was the house where, my mother was born and things like that. It was really crazy. It was the day of my brother's funeral that I went over there, and my dad dropped me off and was like, "Hey, this was your grandmother Webb's house." Like, "Oh, okay." So I conceived my daughter within that very short time period after my brother died. Felicity wasn't supposed to be born until the end of like January. Richie and I actually had a fight about whether God was real or not. And I told him, I said, funny, I was like, I said, "You say you don't believe in God, but when some shit happens, that's going to be the same God you're praying to that you don't believe in." I went to bed, nothing, thinking nothing about it. When I woke up, I went to go pee and I couldn't stop peeing. So I went and knocked on his mom's door. I was like, "Ma?" She said, "Yeah." I said, "When your water breaks, does it feel like you're peeing and can't stop?" She said,
Yeah.
"Yeah." I was like, "Hey, we need to go to the hospital." What? So, and of course, how ironic, the fight that we had, and Richie's praying to this same God he doesn't believe in. Those type of synchronicities with me seeing things in dreams or saying something and then it happened, it kept showing up and kept showing up and kept showing up.
So your daughter's name is Felicity? Nice.
Felicity Rain, Joyous Rain. There's a whole story that goes into her. She had actually just gotten out of jail yesterday. Looking at the irony of it all. I will say this. Felicity was born in 2004. So it had to have been 2005. My cousin, his wife, and their two kids all died in a car wreck. My stepmother had told me when I was pregnant with my daughter, she told me, if I ever get the chance, I'll do everything in my power to take her away from you. So I wouldn't even let her see. Like, she worked in the hospital where my daughter was born, and I would not even let her come on that floor. I was like, no, I was terrified of her. Um, when my cousin, his wife, and their 2 kids died in a car wreck, though, I decided, okay, Felicity and I are going to go with David and Tammy. We're going to go to the funeral. So that was the first time she got to see my daughter. Um, she and my father were talking to me. It was like, hey, your stepsister went to college. If you go to college, we'll help you take care of Felicity. No, okay, I can do that. And I believed them. So they did. They watched Felicity while I went to school, while I worked. I worked at basically it was like a high pressure power washing job. So when I went to school, they had a job on campus where you could do the same thing. So I did that. So I was going to school full time, working 30 hours a week on top of that, and but again, if they hadn't helped me, I wouldn't have been able to do that. That actually turned into more of a scam. I don't know why I was so foolish as to believe that they actually had good intentions. In
What
2007,
came of that? What came of that?
well, they actually ended up taking her away from me. Um, in in 2011, I had gotten arrested. I had my prescriptions, but they weren't in a bottle. Fine, sent me to jail for 13 hours, saw the judge. Here, you're released of your own recognizance. Do your time, do your community service, and it'll be done. Well, I was doing my last day of community service, and Richie's mom was watching Felicity. So I got done, and I was like, hey, where are you at? I need to come get Felicity. And she was like, no, you need to go to the courthouse. And I'm like, why? She was like, there's papers there for you. Okay. So my father and my stepmother had gotten with my daughter's father and was basically like, look, we're going to go to court to take this kid away. Do you want to help us or not? He was a screw up. When I left, it was my second day of college that I actually left from being with him. I told him, I can't be a super student, a super mom, and teach you how to be a man. So there was already some division that was going on there. They were able to play on that. And because, he smoked weed too. So he knew if he didn't go with them that they would take her away from him as well. So it was 2011. And actually, when we went to court, I had just found out a couple months before that I was pregnant. These people told my mom I'd never be able to have kids. Both times, it was literally me praying. The first time was, God, send me an angel so I can have someone to love, someone to protect. And God did. He gave me Felicity. So when they took Felicity, I was like praying, if she's not going to come back, give me another child. Lo and behold, I got pregnant with my son. There was a lot of
Imagine
issues when
that.
I first got pregnant. I was still bleeding, still having not full periods, but was still spotting. So because my daughter was born at 32 weeks, they were afraid that I wouldn't even be able to carry Felix. They had me do a urine test just to see. Basically, we're looking at my numbers, and the numbers had went up enough that they thought, okay, the first, I can't remember exactly how long it was, but basically all the way through my pregnancy, I was having to do like a vaginal suppository to keep my numbers up, to keep me from going into labor. That last trimester, they stopped that, and I was taking shots, the same shots they give you to not go into labor. So I actually did carry my son full term. I graduated May of 2012. Felix was born in March of 2012. So it was to me, it was just really astounding the way everything worked out.
Right.
In this time, though, with all these things that were going on with Felicity, my father's name was David, which to me was so ironic, because they were able to go to court and fight. And I told him, I said, it's amazing. Your name's David, and you have more money than Solomon, enough to where you can take my kid away. And I had watched them just destroy this little girl, just completely destroy who she was. They gave her rules. She was crying over me. So they literally gave her rules for when she could cry. My stepbrother, the one who I was beating up boys for being mean to him, was telling her, if you cry over your mom, we're going to send you to school in just your panties. She believed that. And thank God they were cruel to her. So the Christmas, Felix was born in 2012. So it would have been that Christmas. I decided I wasn't going to try and fight through court anymore. Look, they'd already destroyed Felicity and it was destroying me. I mean, just, it almost broke me when they took her away. And I truly believe my stepmother had hoped I was going to kill myself. I called my dad and I was like, look, I can't fight anymore. You wanted her, take her. He said, you don't want to see her again? I said, no, I do, but I can't see her like this. I said, she's not even the same kid anymore. You guys have destroyed her. You're destroying me, and I don't want to do this anymore. So I actually took my son to my adopted dad, and he actually was my best friend. When everything went on with my father and my stepmother taking my daughter, he kind of stepped into that role as dad. I took Felix literally to him and I said, Dad, I need you to take care of him right now. I wasn't okay in my mind. At that point, now I had, like I said, before this, I had never considered ending my life because I wasn't going to give the world that satisfaction. And there was Jesus that kept me through. But with losing Felicity like that, I put a serious, I had my whole plan to where I was going to kill them and then kill myself. But if I did that, who was Felix going to be with? There was nobody. That's what,
Nobody
so
for your son.
I've told my son, baby, you are my superhero. You saved my life. Now that he's older, we've had that conversation and he's like, Mama, he's actually, it's not just me. Apparently this gift that I have to see things in spirit, my son has too. He remembers before he was born talking to God, and he didn't want to come down here. He told God, I don't want to go down there. It's bad down there. And God said, let me show you a picture. And he literally showed my son a picture of me. And then after that, and this is, so people say that you can't remember things like that. Your soul is eternal. You were with source before you came here. You'll go back to source when you leave. It doesn't have to be more complicated than that. To me, that's just my thoughts. So, but literally it was Felix that saved my life. If it hadn't been for him, I had full intentions on killing them and killing myself.
Well, that didn't happen. And you're in a better frame of mind.
Yes.
Nowadays, cannabis has helped you.
Oh my God. Cannabis is really what kept me through the saving grace. When I started going to behavioral health in the military, they were putting me on all kinds of different medications, and they put me on trazodone. My blood pressure on a good day is like 90/60. When you take trazodone, it makes your blood pressure drop. So it was literally making my blood pressure bottom out, and I couldn't wake up when I was supposed to. So had I not been going home, I would have been going home anyway. So it all worked out. But when I became a civilian and I got pregnant with my daughter, you can't take effects or the things like that while you're pregnant. So once I had Felicity, and I only breastfed her for a month. After that, I went and got back on my medicines and went to school. The medicines helped me a little, but not like what they were saying. But again, even just considering all the trauma I had been through, you can give me medicine, but that's not going to take all those things away.
No, that's, yeah.
So, but for me, I had always just accepted what happened. Never actually took the time to work through it.
Right.
Once I had my daughter, I felt like I had to work through those things. So I wasn't just carrying everything around with me. And again, it was Jesus that got me through. But by this point, when my oldest brother died, I wasn't angry at God anymore. And I knew that God understood me. I didn't go to God like begging for his forgiveness. When Michael died and my heart wasn't hard anymore, I knew that God forgave me. Like I felt like I had been clean, been washed away from that.
So you found grace and you found forgiveness.
Yes.
And all kinds of good stuff like that for your soul.
But see, here's the thing. Even all that I had been through, I had forgiven those people. Oh, I forgot something, y'all. When I came home from basic training, there was a letter from my first stepmother. She gave me her phone number. There was pictures of me and my mom and things like that. And she gave me her phone number. So I called her, and she was talking and telling me how Adam and Chris had went on to do great things. And when she told me that Chris had a daughter and he named her Jacqueline, I had a come apart. Y'all, I don't know if I've ever
And
cussed
this
so
is the
much in
boy
my
that
life.
was touching you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, as 18, all I could think of was, oh my God, he's going to do to her what he did to me. It wasn't until my oldest brother died that I realized, as a father, he named her Jacqueline because he had to be terrified that somebody was going to do to her what he did to me. So, like I'm telling
Well,
you,
who knows in
his brother
in
dying the
that
way he
brain?
did really changed my heart.
Who knows in that mind? Who knows?
It I I wish now that I had handled that differently. Once I had gotten through the forgiveness of everybody else, the problem was, when it came to that, I had no idea how to love me, or how to forgive myself, or how to show myself that same grace that I was so easily to give to other people. Um, it was actually in college, when I was going to behavioral health, that they tried to put me on an anti-seizure medicine to help me. And it made it to where I'm in college and I could not articulate my words to speak anymore. So I let myself crash off of it. And then it was okay. I kept going to behavioral health, but I wouldn't take that medicine anymore. In 2021, my son and I got out of Tennessee. We left Tennessee with my cousin and her husband. I've been in that relationship since 2014. In 2014, there was something I skipped there and I didn't mean to. But in 2007, when I was in college, I got a call from the hospital. My brother had overdosed again. He had actually, in all totality, he had like 13 overdoses. So in
This is the other
2007, I
brother.
got the call, and they were telling me, look, he's overdosed. His father said, let him go, but you're the next of kin. So if you tell us something different, we have to go with what you say. And I told them, you guys do whatever you can to save him. And he did. He got through that, but it wasn't going to be his last experience. The guy that I ended up getting with in 2014, Josh, we had been together for maybe a month, and I was going to the dentist to get my teeth pulled that day. When I woke up and looked on Facebook, the people that my brother was doing heroin with had posted on there that he had overdosed and died. So my car had gotten stolen. So on on October 3rd of 2014, I found out my brother had overdosed, went to the dentist, got 2 of my teeth pulled, got a call from some friends that evening. Hey, they found your car. You got to go get it. I've got gauze in my mouth and I'm cussing at the chief of police. He can't understand what I'm saying, but it didn't make any sense to me. Apparently they had a group of people in Hickman who were just stealing cars, so they knew what was going on. The hardest part of all of that was I had to tell my grandma that Larry had overdosed. And she did not want to believe what I was saying. How do you know? How do you know? And I'm like, Grandma, the people he's doing heroin with are talking to me. So she swore, oh, it was just a heart attack. And I said, Nanny, if that's what you want to tell yourself, it's okay. So, but that hit me in a different way too. So again, I never believed that just because someone say committed suicide, I never thought that was automatic damnation to hell. I feel like God understands a broken mind. And again, my own experiences had shown me that. Not what the Bible said, not what the church said, what I believed in my spirit. So, but I was pissed off at my brother. I mean, like, I was furious. It was, why did you leave me here? You know, Mom's gone. You know, Michael's gone. Nanny's here, but you left me alone. And I mean, I was mad at him.
He was fighting his own stuff.
Yeah. But, and see, it wasn't that I was mad that it it wasn't that I was mad at what he was doing. I felt like he left me. And it did. It gave me
Right.
some anger.
You took it personal.
Yeah, I did. But it wasn't but a few months after that he came to me in a dream and he was okay. And then I remembered the verse where there were basically these men had carried their friend to Jesus and he told them, it's because of your friend's faith that you're healed. So I knew that right there, that my prayers alone and my grandmother's prayers would have been enough to get him where he needed to go. And he came to me in a dream and he was okay. So that gave me a peace that I didn't have before with it. But again, there was those few months I was really upset and angry with him for doing that, for leaving me. But being able to see him in my dreams and he was okay. There were some things that had went on with my daughter, even though my stepmother and my father had adopted her. They let her come to see me on the weekends, things like that. She was having some issues around 12 and I told them, you guys need to get her behavioral health or she's not going to be okay. When she was 17, I left Tennessee, my son and I did, to get out of the domestic abuse. And basically my stepmother and my father left her in Tennessee with her 18-year-old boyfriend and just left her there. Just left her. It's like, so you went through all this to take this kid away from me. You didn't take care of her and then you abandon her? So, she actually just got out of jail yesterday. She has been in active addiction with meth for at least the last 3 years. My son and I had the conversation yesterday. You know, my adopted dad went to pick her up from jail and took her to Union City. And he said, Mama, why would God let a daughter be taken away from her mother? Why would God let that sister be taken away from her brother and let all this happen? And I said, baby, God gave us free will. He said, how do you mean? And I said, look, God didn't make Felicity use meth. She made a choice to use meth. That's what messed her up, not God. And he was like, well, he said, I just don't understand. I said, look, if you need to be mad at God, it's okay. He actually does understand that. And I told him what had happened with me. So after we were talking, he was like, Mama, you're right. It's not that I don't believe in God. And he said, now that you've said all that, he said, I don't guess I'm mad at him. I'm just mad that Felicity's going through this. So even at 13, I'm telling my son the same thing. If you need to be mad at God, it's okay. I think religion tells people that they have to be a certain way, and that limits God. I do not think God is this uptight, asshole, judgmental being that everybody makes him out to be. Like,
The Catholic
no,
God,
it's
right?
not that way at all. You know, I
Yeah, well,
don't
here's
even believe when you die that you're judged that way. When you go for your life review, you judge yourself, but it's not through judgment. It's just through learning. So,
Jacqueline. Here we are today, though. Here we are
yes,
today.
I have to say, when we left in 2021, it was 2022 when I found a civilian doctor, and she was like, hey, I want to try you on this anti-epileptic. And I was terrified. I was like, no, the last time they tried to do this, it made me where I couldn't formulate my thoughts. So they had started me on prazosin and trileptal, and I took them both that night. My mind was so quiet that it scared the shit out of me. I wouldn't take the medicines again until I saw my doctor. And she was like, well, what happened? And I told her, I said, look, it's never been quiet in my mind like that. I don't know what to do with that. It actually made me afraid because my mind, there's so much going on all the time. It's not like a river. It's like an ocean going 90 million different ways all at one time. So again, you know, when I was like smoking weed, other people were getting goofy, and it didn't do me that way. It made my brain slow down just a little bit. So when I took those meds and my brain got quiet, I was like, oh God, something is wrong. And she, she told me, she was like, just try it again. Just try it again. And so I did. And at least I knew to expect my mind to be calm. Since I have been taking the trileptal, y'all, it has been a game changer for me. I can lay down at night and I don't have to go through this huge fight to surrender, because when you close your eyes, you're actually surrendering your spirit to whatever you believe in. So now that I take this medicine, I don't have to go through that whole it stopped me from having to go through this fight to surrender my own spirit. And I don't wake up at between 2 and 4 o'clock every single night anymore. So I'm telling you, not only was it rewiring my brain, but me getting real sleep for the first time in my life. Before this, I only slept maybe 4 hours a night every night. That's it. That was my max. That was all I could do. This medicine has made it to where I go to sleep and I actually sleep through the night. It made me feel like a whole different person. I take that medicine not just in the night, I take it in the morning and the afternoon. We tried it on my son. My son actually sleeps the whole night through now. He's not waking up between 2 and 4 o'clock anymore. It's been a total game changer for both of us. So I think first off, when it comes to medication, don't be afraid to have your own voice and tell them, look, either this is working or it's not.
It's a
But
must.
also, you need to understand that in our society, in this Western culture we have, they don't give you medicines to actually treat what's going on with you. All they can do is treat symptoms. And I'm not saying Western medicine's wrong. It has its benefits.
It
But
doesn't cure. It
please
doesn't cure
consider,
you. It doesn't cure you.
yeah, please consider the Eastern alternatives, though, holistically, whether it's faith that keeps you going through, whether it's looking at the Buddhism concepts and studying those and applying those. But also, I was never afraid to look outside of Christianity. In college, I found out how they put the Bible together, and that really made me open my eyes. I was like, okay, this
Yeah.
makes sense to me now. So, I know in certain places weed's not necessarily legal. In some places it is. Look, if it wasn't for THC outside of Jesus, I would not have been able to keep myself okay going through this. So
Amen.
don't let anybody make you feel bad for doing
Right.
something different. Even like, the dude the other day with the ketamine and people who are doing microdosing of psilocybin, things like this. Do not be afraid to try the holistic approaches. It can definitely help you.
That's
And
great. That's
whatever
great
you're going
words.
through, if y'all don't take anything from this except look, I don't know if you guys remember Shawshank Redemption, where Andy is talking to Red and he's telling him hope may be the best of things. So I'm going to give you that same verse. And faith isn't something you just have. Faith is something you hold on to. And when it gets harder, hold on tighter. Don't let it go. You don't lose faith. You make a choice to let go. Don't do that. If I have been through what I've been through and can still keep going, I promise you, you can too. And it does get better. But sometimes you got to go through the shit to get to that point.
You
Don't
took the
give up
words
on
right out of my
yourself.
mouth.
Yeah, just don't give up on yourself. And if something's not working, by all means, try a different approach.
That's it. Yeah. When you look at the totality of your
Yes.
life to this
Yes.
moment,
Yes.
if you had not been here, and heard all that,
Yeah.
you would say, "Oh, I get it,"
Yeah.
But if you can have the totality of the traumas in your life, and now you're homeschooling your boy,
Yes. Yes,
you've
I
got
am.
your meds straight, you've got a little THC to buffer the other parts,
Yep.
and CBD, and
Yes. I
and,
don't
and now
take
that you're homeschooling your kid, you're really proud of that because you don't want him in that
very,
mixed up nonsense.
he had went through so much in school. Just to, I tried to get them to hold him back in 5th grade. I talked to his teacher about talking to the SPED teacher. The SPED teacher in 5th grade went to my son and told him, it's not my job to teach you how to write a paragraph. I was like, okay, so that upset me because I never even got to speak to her. I asked him in 5th grade, can you hold him back? He's missing multiplication. There's things he wasn't, skills he should have had that he didn't. So it took him going into 7th grade. The SPED teacher was in his class helping, and she was like, hey, why is he not in SPED? And I told her what happened. She was like, oh no. So they tested him. And of course, what did they say? Yeah, he's a really good reader and he's really smart, but he doesn't know how to take his thoughts and put them into a paragraph. And I was like, oh, how ironic. So when we left Fort Smith, my adopted dad had heart surgery the year before. So we wanted to come be with him. And being here with him not only has been great for dad, but it also gives Felix somebody outside of myself. who really loves and cares for my son. So this has been fabulous. We're
Good
only doing
choice.
homeschool for this 1 year. He's still going to have to do 8th grade. What we're doing, y'all, is hitting math very, very hard. What we're actually going through is technically 3rd grade math, but I'm looking at his IEP and where they're saying he can't read money, he can't count money, he can't tell time, he can't do this. We've already locked out like 9 of these skills. So just the fact that my son can do this, he feels so much better about himself. If I had known this then, though, it was okay. You can't hold him back in school. That takes an act of Congress. So I guess this year I'm the act of Congress. But y'all, my son, he can sit down and within the first 2 days, I found out in school, they tell you when you're counting money, they tell you count the largest coin first. What they really mean is count the coin with the largest value first. So this whole time he had been mixing up a nickel and a dime. Once I showed him what they mean is count the one with the most value, y'all, he sits down and counts money every day. I ordered him a clock thinking he didn't know how to tell time. He sat down, he was like, oh, he told me that. I'm like, why are they saying you couldn't do these things? So I'm sure there was something small that he was kind of mixing up, whether he was mixing up the hour and the minute, I don't know. But these things they said he can't do, he just knew. And I was like, this is crazy. So now
He's going to taught with some love and understanding.
Yeah, but it also takes a mom who's patient with him. I don't sit down and tell him what he can't do. We work through the things that he can. And in school, when you don't do something, they just move forward. Excuse me. So he was feeling so overwhelmed because let's say you don't know your multiplication, but y'all are going to go on to long division anyway. We don't do that. Right now, we're still learning multiples of 7, but we're learning, how to do addition with and without regrouping. So he doesn't feel that same kind of pressure. To me, it doesn't matter how slowly he's learning, just that he's actually taking it in.
Did you learn the long math or the old math?
I have shown him some things that come with Common Core, not because I appreciate it, but let's say if he doesn't know how to do a multiple, you can draw 7 dots to represent a 7 and add them up that way. So he's actually learning from me the old way to do math, kind of incorporated with their new way.
That'll serve him good. The other stuff is nonsense. I looked at it.
To me,
the old math is inside the new math, by the way.
And I told people, like, look, yo, you guys, I graduated from college with a bachelor's degree. I made the dean's list. I graduated with honors. And Felix got into 4th grade. And I was like, hey, somebody's going to have to help me. I was like, look, I have a bachelor's degree, and this Common Core math is making me feel stupid.
Right.
So I hate the way they do it now. I do try and show him the way that they do, but it's just so he's familiar. I don't want Felix to go to college, not because he couldn't, but Felix he's highly intelligent. He's very quick. But when it comes to actual book smarts, he doesn't feel like he's got that kind of under his belt. So we're looking more.
Is he a reader? Does he read?
Go into like a trade school. My son builds things that are out of this world. When he was 3, we gave him his first Legos, and he was not looking at boxes. He came up to me with a pyramid built all together. I'm like, how did you do this? So even now, when he was in school, they would have free time. He would take paper and literally make, what do you call those things? A lightsaber from Star Wars. He can take paper, just paper, and make a lightsaber out of it. So the things that he doesn't do, I don't focus on. I make sure to focus on the things that he can do and let him love it that way.
That's awesome. Jacqueline.
Yes.
It's amazing you're here.
Yes.
I'm so glad we got to talk.
I am too. Thank you. Like I said, I really appreciate you reaching out. It meant a lot to me, truly.
I know that there are brothers and sisters out there who hurt. Yes. And they're in dark places. There's 154 plus thousand that went to the dark side. And I just thank you so much for coming on and telling your story. Give them hope.
I have to say this, and I don't mean to go back in, but part of this thing with being human, we're programmed to have amnesia. If you remembered everything your soul had done, you wouldn't be able to focus on this life. So if you know that you are programmed to forget, one of the biggest things we do in this life is to remember. What is your purpose? There's this trick to being human where we forget that we have spirit guides with us always. We forget that God is actually in us. We came from source, and I don't care if you call it source, God, universe, whatever. That's where you came from, and that's where you'll return to. But don't forget that you're not alone. We're all connected. God is in you, but you have spirit guides that are with you always. Just keep in mind you're not alone.
I gotta.
And if you guys need to reach out, I'm on Facebook. Reach out. Please say something. I am here.
Yeah, I went to a psychic one time. I was just to mess around, and he told me that I have a spiritual guide. He's a Cherokee Indian by the name of Brown Bear.
Everybody has a spirit guide that's with them their whole life, always.
I thought it was pretty
But
cool.
but again, this thing with being human, if you're so caught up in religiosity, you won't learn that there are things that they won't tell you. Don't be
I mean,
afraid to venture out from what you've been taught. Think for yourself.
and if you're in a bad way, reach out to anybody in the veteran community. There's the VA number. There's the hotlines. I know veterans that were helped by them. So
Yes,
don't
I
be
do know some
afraid.
too,
Don't
but
be a
like I
hard
say,
ass.
if you guys don't feel comfortable reaching out to somebody like that, like I said, I'm on Facebook. Reach out to me. You can message me. I promise I will talk to you. I will listen to you. And sometimes that's all people need. They need to know that they're not alone and that somebody actually gives a damn.
Thank you, Jacqueline.
Thank you.
Thank you for the courage.
Yes.
I love it. It's so great to see courage. All right. So everybody who showed up or shows up ever in the future, thank you so much for checking out Sick Call with Doc. Please do us the favor. It costs nothing but a couple of minutes. Hit all the buttons. Spotify, please share it. Do a review. Hey, it's a great show. Anything you can do to help us, we really appreciate it. And thanks for stopping by, Jacqueline. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
All right, now, till next time.
Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.